The Other Woman. For many years I worked with a gifted husband and wife team of artist marionette makers, helping to create and on occasion performing with the marionettes that we made out of many different materials. As a result of this apprenticeship, I was quite often seen in the company of Mr. and Mrs. de Cassetta at craft shows, art openings, performances, and so on. Mrs. de Cassetta was a very striking-looking red-haired woman, whose Scots ancestry was quite evident in her red hair and milk-white complexion. I, on the other hand, have spent the majority of my life being asked questions like the following. What country are you from? Where did you learn to speak English? You speak it very well. No, this was no great achievement, being a natural-born American who was the student of voice. Are you Greek? Are you Armenian? Are you Native American? I once answered the Armenian question in the affirmative out of curiosity about what would happen if I did. I was also tired of having to answer that my mom was from Tennessee and my dad was from Georgia, and that was about as exotic and foreign as I could claim to be. It didn't stop me for a moment that at the time I didn't have the foggiest notion of where Armenia even was. I just appeared surprised and delighted and asked the interrogator how she'd guessed. To my relief, she just simpered and galloped on with inane cocktail chatter. One morning, my colleague, Mrs. de Cassetta, entered the studio and began to try to relate a story of how the art opening of her husband's latest work the previous evening had proceeded. She would make a start, begin to laugh, and then have to start over again. She made several attempts, collapsing into gales of laughter before she could tell the following story without laughing, wheezing, or snorting. It seems that someone came up to the couple at the opening and engaged her husband in conversation for some time. As good manners dictated, her husband turned to introduce the gentleman, saying, "Have you met my wife?" To their astonishment, the man's face took on a very odd look. There was a pregnant pause, and the man finally spluttered out, "No, where is your wife?" as if Mr. de Cassetta had not already indicated that the woman at his side was his spouse. My friend's husband, doubtless thinking he'd better speak gently to this obvious madman, repeated, "This is my wife, Alma." The man peered intently at the good-looking redhead for a few moments, and then said with exasperation, "No, I meant your other wife, the dark-haired one." Mrs. de Cassetta failed to tell me how the rest of the conversation proceeded, but it didn't take Sherlock Holmes to figure out that he meant me. So for years after, when I called their home and Mr. de Cassetta answered, I would say, "This is your other wife calling." I've often wondered what it would be like to be the other woman, but I don't think this is the kind of other woman they're going on about in the movies or on the TV soap operas.